In 2007, Nokia sold nearly half the mobile phones on the planet. By 2013, their handset business was gone. They possessed unmatched manufacturing scale, billions in revenue, and global brand loyalty. Yet they lost their market position to the smartphone revolution in under 6 years. To understand how an empire that vast collapses so quickly, you have to look at their final days. In 2011, Nokia's CEO sent an internal memo comparing the company to a man standing on a burning oil platform in the freezing North Sea. He was right to panic. But Nokia didn't fail because of technical incompetence. They failed because their previous success built a corporate culture too terrified to survive. Long before they connected billions of people wirelessly, Nokia was a single paper and pulp mill. Founded in 1865 on the rapids of a remote Finnish river, the operation consisted of dragging logs to the water, grinding them down, and shipping sheets of paper across the Russian Empire. The river provided water for paper production, but more importantly, it offered immense hydropower. By the early 20th century, the company harnessed those rapids to expand into electricity generation, eventually moving into the production of telegraph and telephone cables. Because they controlled the local power supply, neighboring businesses in the town began to rely on them. Over decades, a rubber factory and a cable works merged with the paper mill, creating a corporate umbrella that manufactured car tires, television sets, toilet paper, and rubber boots alongside one another. It looked like a confused department store. Yet this sprawling collection of local industrial businesses accidentally forged a conglomerate holding the raw materials, power, and electronic infrastructure required for global telecommunications. By 1992, that sprawling conglomerate was bleeding money. The Soviet Union had just collapsed, taking a massive chunk of Finland's trade with it. Unemployment neared 17%, and the entire nation faced a severe banking crisis. Incoming CEO Jorma Ollila looked at the wreckage and made a choice. He sold off the legacy businesses, the paper, the rubber, the televisions, and bet the entire surviving company on mobile telecommunications. The industry considered this an absurd gamble. Motorola had invented the handheld mobile phone, and Ericsson held a massive head start in network infrastructure. Nokia was a minor Finnish rubber company trying to compete with entrenched telecom giants. But Ollila saw that phones were about to become affordable mass-market consumer products. Nokia's initial path to global dominance was born directly from this fearless willingness to cannibalize its own past. That bet paid off immediately. Nokia understood the mobile phone as a personal identity accessory, rather than a heavy tool for executives. They released cheap, reliable, highly intuitive phones with clean designs, capturing market share at astonishing speed. In September 2000, they released the 3310. It pioneered text messaging, popularized mobile gaming with Snake, and featured interchangeable faceplates. Its physical durability was so legendary, it remains an internet meme decades later. They scaled the success globally, designing specific devices for different demographics. The ultra-affordable Nokia 1100, equipped with a built-in flashlight for regions with unreliable electricity, sold over 250 million units, making it the best-selling mobile phone in human history. By 2007, Nokia generated over $50 billion in annual revenue. This chart shows their dominance in the smartphone sector, swelling to encompass 50% of the global market, while competitors like Apple and Samsung barely registered. The company grew so large it accounted for a quarter of Finland's exports and roughly 4% of the country's entire gross domestic product, funding nearly half of all business sector research and development. Nokia had transitioned into a central economic engine for its home nation, providing the financial and technological infrastructure for modern Finland. When Apple introduced the iPhone in January 2007, Nokia's leadership barely reacted. Publicly, the CEO stated they had nothing to worry about. Internally, executives dismissed the device for its poor battery life, lack of a physical keyboard, and high price tag. On paper, they were right. Nokia's flagship N95, released that same year, possessed a 5-megapixel camera, built-in GPS, and video recording, specifications that outperformed the early iPhone. The irony is that Nokia's own engineers had developed touchscreen prototypes back in the late 1990s. The technology existed inside their labs, but a bureaucracy built to protect existing revenue streams repeatedly blocked its release. The core technological hurdle was Symbian, Nokia's profitable operating system. It was designed for small screens and physical keypads. Modifying it for fluid, intuitive touchscreens was nearly impossible, yet leadership refused to abandon the platform that had made them billions. By clinging to Symbian, Nokia found itself trapped in a two-front war by 2010. Apple's closed app ecosystem attacked them from the premium top, while Google's open-source Android rapidly encroached on their market share from the affordable bottom. Their scale had paralyzed them. The leadership structure was now completely incapable of taking the same disruptive risks that had built the company out of a paper mill in the first place. By 2010, the situation was dire. Smartphone market share was plummeting. In desperation, the board hired former Microsoft executive Stephen Elop, making him the first non-Finnish CEO in the company's 145-year history. Elop surveyed the wreckage and wrote the burning platform memo. He informed his employees that the company was dying, that Symbian was entirely non-competitive, and that they had poured gasoline on their own fire. He then made a fatal strategic decision. Nokia had been developing a Linux-based operating system as a successor to Symbian. Elop abandoned it entirely, choosing instead to exclusively adopt Microsoft's Windows Phone. By publicly declaring their current Symbian products dead long before any Windows alternatives were actually ready to sell, leadership instantly vaporized consumer trust. Hardware sales collapsed overnight. When the new Windows phones finally arrived, they faced an ecosystem paradox. Because no one used Windows phones, developers refused to build apps for them. And because there were no essential apps like Instagram or banking tools, consumers refused to buy the phones. The financial results were severe. This graph plots the company's smartphone market share, which collapsed from 34%. Microsoft purchased Nokia's handset business for $7.2 billion, pennies on the dollar compared to its peak valuation. In less than a decade, the mobile division had lost over 99% of its value. Nokia had the hardware, the patents, the manufacturing scale, and the brand loyalty to survive. They simply chose a dying software platform and died with it. The immediate aftermath was dark for Finland's economy. Tens of thousands of jobs vanished, and a region that had relied heavily on Nokia's success stagnated for nearly a decade. But the talent didn't disappear. The pool of laid-off engineers and designers scattered, ultimately building Finland's world-class startup ecosystem, which birthed globally dominant gaming companies like Supercell and Rovio. The remnant Nokia Corporation survives today too. Having retained its patents and network division, it operates as a profitable provider of 5G telecommunications infrastructure. Their story proves that in technology, nothing is permanent. True survival requires the constant willingness to destroy your own empire before someone else does. Subscribe and let me know in the comments which chapter you didn't see coming.